Today we're going to learn about personal narratives. What is a personal narrative? A personal narrative is a story told in first person. The author is the main character. Some of the first personal narratives were told verbally and passed from one generation to the next. These stories usually became legends. Eventually, people began recording their narratives. The American Indians, for example, recorded their narratives through paintings. Today, personal narratives are recorded in a variety of methods, including text, video, audio, artwork, sewing projects, scrapbooks, blogs, and other creative methods. A common example of an autobiography, which is a text version of a personal narrative, is the Diary of Anne Frank. But what does a personal narrative look like? First, the individual writing the story will introduce him or herself and the main problem to be addressed. This is similar to the introduction of a typical novel on the story plotline. Then, the body of the story expands the issue and explains complications the individual experienced. This section is like the rising action and climax of the plotline. The introduction and body sections are followed by a reflection on what the individual learned from this experience. The reflection is similar to the resolution, or falling action, of the plotline. When presented with the opportunity to write a personal narrative, many people ask, "Why would anyone care about what I have to write? My life is really not that interesting." While people may or may not care about the day-to-day events of your life, all human beings want to know that someone else truly understands what they are experiencing. You may find your narrative to be boring or insignificant, but you have had difficulties or trials in your life that will allow you to connect with others experiencing similar problems. Furthermore, even personal narratives from significant historical figures were frequently considered to be boring by the individual who wrote it. Today, the value of these records are seen by thousands of readers.
Let's take a look at some examples of how personal narratives have influenced history. Thomas Gallaudet was just an ordinary young man who noticed that his neighbor's daughter was deaf. He taught her how to write a few words, and then the neighbor asked Gallaudet to go to England to learn how they teach deaf people there. Gallaudet traveled to France and learned sign language from Abbe Sicard. Gallaudet asked a teacher at the French School for the Deaf to accompany him back to America. The two of them began the first American School for the Deaf in Hartford, Connecticut in 1817. Suppose Thomas Gallaudet had believed that his contribution to the deaf community was not important. Without his experience and personal narrative, American Sign Language would not have become the language for the deaf. If Gallaudet had not realized the importance of his own contribution and personal narrative, we would have been stuck with only the record of Alexander Graham Bell. Bell's father was the creator of a series of symbols that showed speech, the position and movement of the lips, throat, and tongue when making sounds. This was called visible speech and was used to teach deaf people how to actually speak themselves. Alexander Graham Bell believed that deaf people should learn to speak and that manual sign language was a crude form of communication. He developed many inventions based on sounds and speech, such as the telephone. While his innovations were helpful for hearing people, they were not helpful to deaf people whose natural and native language was sign language. Luckily, while his personal narrative led to many advancements in technology, it was not the only narrative about deaf people's language, so deaf people were still able to thrive with the use of American Sign Language. Can you see how a variety of personal narratives on the same topic allow the reader to understand the issue more completely from a variety of perspectives? This is why the world needs your voice. Other teenagers want to know that you have similar experiences to them, and the more voices we have on a certain topic, the more complete the big picture is for the reader.